and today I'm going to be doing a book haul. So this is, I think, the 4th book haul that I've done on this channel. It's a proper big book haul, and this is basically all of the books that I have bought since the end of the summer, so like this half term's worth of books. And I've also got some DVDs to show you, so I'm going to start with the DVDs. The first DVD that I got was District 9, which is, it's kind of like a spoof documentary about what would happen if aliens invaded. And this isn't like aliens invade and take over, this is like aliens invade and we put them in slums and we quarantine them into this one specific area and we treat them horribly, and like it's a political message about how we treat immigrants and stuff. I've seen the beginning of it like 4 times and it's so good. So I finally bought it and I was like, look, I want to watch the full thing, so I got it on DVD because it was only $1.50 from CEX, so I was going to buy something, so I got this. I then went to That's Entertainment and I looked for a specific DVD, which I did find, which we'll get to in a minute, but I also found Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, which is a book to movie adaptation, which I haven't read the book of yet, but I probably will at some point. But the main 2 characters in this are played by 2 actors that I really like, so I was kind of like, oh, I wanted to see this when it was in the cinema, but I didn't, and then it's on DVD and it was in That's Entertainment, and I needed another DVD to get the deal, so I got this one. And this is kind of, I think, about 2 people who meet and bond over music. I don't really know the premise, I just know that it looked really cool and kind of chick flicky, so there's this one. I then got a DVD that was made in the 90s, I think. Either the 90s or the early 2000s. And it's a film that I've never heard of until I kind of started watching Baz Pierce videos, and then he mentioned it, I think, in his like 3-hour-long live show or something. That he really liked this film, and I saw it in the shop and I was like, oh, that's that film that Baz Pierce really likes. And I watched the trailer and I was like, this is really funny and weird, and it's got some really, really quite good actresses in it. So I got it, and it's called Drop Dead Gorgeous, and it's a dark comedy about like a beauty pageant and death. So that to me seems like a good film. So I will probably watch this at some point. The last film that I bought, which is why I went into That's Entertainment, was to find a copy of Made in Dagenham, which I've seen at least twice and I love. I think this is such a brilliant film. If you haven't seen this film, go and watch it. It's funny, it's clever, it's witty, it's got a really fantastic cast of people that they're not big names, but they're really good at their job. And basically the premise is about the strike of the workers of the Ford factory in the 60s, I believe. I want to say 60s. Yeah, in the 60s. So basically, back in the 60s, Ford cars were made in Britain, and the leather interiors were sewn together in effectively sweatshops by women in Dagenham, and they weren't getting paid enough, so they went on strike. And because they went on strike, all the people making the actual cars, so all the men, had to go on strike because they weren't selling the cars because there weren't leather interiors, they were just like the engine and the framework. So it kind of just shut down the entire Ford company for a bit, and this film is so good. I want to have a day where I watch this and I watch Pride and The Boat That Rocked, and there's another one that goes with this list, but I can't remember what it is. But just these kind of like political kind of set in a political upheaval time, and kind of, because it's based on a true story, this actually happened, and it's brilliant. I love this film so much. So I got it on DVD, and I'm definitely gonna watch this at some point soon again. And now we move on to the books. I got so many books. So let's start with the ones that I bought today. and then I can go to the ones that I bought in September. So, first one that I bought today is the new Lemony Snicket book in the All the Wrong Questions series, Shouldn't You Be at School? And this is the third book in the All the Wrong Questions series, of which I've read the first two. I don't really know what this is about, other than that it's a continuation of the series, and therefore I needed to get it. But the series itself is kind of about the guy who writes them, Lemony Snicket, and his time in the VFD as a kind of spy thing. He's an agent of the VFD when he's about 12, and he's in this small town solving mysteries and crimes and things. And it's really interesting. I've really enjoyed this series so far, and I really like Lemony Snicket's style of writing. So I'm looking forward to this, and this is going to be quite high up on my TBR now, so very excited about this book. I then got Afterworlds by Scott Westerfeld. So Scott Westerfeld is the guy who wrote the Uglies series, which I have read all of. I finished it this year, like very early on this year, and I've seen people who were at VEA talking about this book since like May, June time, and have been so keen to read it because it sounds so interesting. And then I saw it the past couple times I've been in Waterstones, and then today I was just like, I have money, this is a book I want to read, buying this book. So the premise of this book is that it's about this girl called Darcy, who is an author, and she's just written her first book called Afterworlds, and it's been published. So she is now a published author, and it's kind of about her journey as a published author, which in itself would be a pretty interesting novel. But then on top of that, you've also got the actual novel Afterworlds, and it's like a chapter of the book and then a chapter of Darcy's story, and a chapter of the book and a chapter of Darcy, and a chapter of the book and a chapter of Darcy, which sounds like a really interesting thing. And I love this cover. Like, I think that's so pretty. It's like it's someone crying, and then there's like a teardrop gap where that's someone's shoulder and their neck, and I really like the design. I think I might like this one more than the American ARC cover. I think this one's nicer, but it's just it's one of those like really soft, kind of thick softness covers, if that makes sense. I don't know how to describe that, but you know what I mean. The one where it feels like it's like you could kind of just put your fingers right through it and it'd be, I don't know, just that. Anyway, I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. But this looks really interesting and I'm quite excited to read it. I then got my first ever Jenny Han book, which is To All the Boys I've Loved Before, which is about a girl who writes letters to all of the boys that she's been in love with. And that's fine because she keeps them under her bed, except someone breaks into her house, steals the letters and posts them to all of the boys that they're written to. So that gets awkward pretty quickly. So I'm very interested to read this. I really want to read the Samurai Turn Pretty series, but my Waterstones never has the first one, it only has the third one. And I can't read the series if I start with the last one. So Waterstones, sort your shit out. But yeah, contemporary, easy read, I'm thinking. Like, I could be very wrong. It's quite long for a contemporary, to be honest. Like, it's 400 and something pages, which is quite long for a contemporary. But I wanted something that was quite nice and quite easy, relatively easy. So I got this. I then got Shadowkissed, which is the third in the Vampire Academy series. So yay for the next one, where they finally start to get of a decent length. Like, the first two are quite short, so I'm hoping that this one kind of goes into a bit more detail. Like, I did like the first two, but I want a bit more detail about the world, and I want more detail about what is happening to all of the characters, and just I want to know what happens, because the way that the second book ended, I need more details, and I need some things, and I want to know what's happening to Rose, because shit went down. If you didn't see my haul where I hauled Vampire Academy, basically the plot of these books is that there's 3 types of vampires in the world. There are the Dampmeres, which are like half vampire, half human, and they protect the good vampires, and they're like soldiers and bodyguards and stuff. And then there's I can't remember what the good vampires are called, but they're good vampires, and they kind of, they're alive, so they'll die eventually, they're mortal, and they drink blood from willing volunteers, kind of like a blood bank system, and they all go to this school called the Vampire Academy, St. Vladimir's Academy, and then there's the Strigoi, who are undead vampires who are immortal, and they kill people to get their blood, and it's kind of about that stuff, and it's really interesting, and I really like it. Like, it is a bit paranormal romancy, but it's also quite a bit of action and a very, I don't want to say kick-ass because that's how I describe a lot of female protagonists, but she's very sassy, she's very headstrong. Like, she has flaws, but she's very independent, she is very aware of her own sexuality and like ability to be sexual, and uses it A, to her advantage, and B, to everyone else's disadvantage, which is great. I love it when characters do that because she's so cool. Like, she knows what she wants and she knows how to get it, and I really like Rose, so I'm excited to read this. I then got Crown of Midnight! This is the second book in the Throne of Glass series. Currently there are 3 books out and a book full of novellas. I've only read the first one, but it was so good. Like, I'm gonna put the review of Throne of Glass up soon. So good. So good. Selena is like, oh my god. Oh, she's just brilliant. Basically, I'm not going to tell you the plot of this one because it's the second in a series, so I can't really tell you because of spoilers. But the first one is about this girl called Selena who is an assassin. Like, female assassins. You're already like, I'm probably going to buy the book just on that basis alone. But so she's a female assassin, she's been imprisoned in the salt mines for a year, and then the prince comes to her and says, look, my dad needs a new bodyguard, so do you want to enter this competition, and after 3 years you can be set free? And she's like, mate, I'm gonna kill everybody else in the tournament, I'm defo gonna win, why even have this tournament? And she's so cool, and just like, the world building is fantastic. Like, it's high fantasy, and the world building is really well done, and there's no kind of like chapters of information dumping, it's just like kind of sown the seeds in all the way through the book, and the characters are really developed, and even characters that I didn't like, I still understood their motives, and they're all really three-dimensional, and apparently the series gets better with every book, and I'm just like, you must be wonderful, because I really like the first one, so I'm excited for this. But I'm just excited for everything that I bought. Last week I also went to the bookshop and I didn't have any money, but my mum was with me, and I convinced her to buy me The Iron Trial by Holly Black and Cassandra Clare, which is not in its cover because I was reading it on the bus and I didn't want the cover to get like wrinkled, so I've taken it out. So this is what it looks like naked, hardback naked, with that on the side. And these are some of my thoughts throughout this book. I really liked this book. The beginning of it, I wasn't too keen, but it got a hell of a lot better after like the first 50 pages. So the premise of this book is that Callum, who is the son of a mage, is going to be tested to get into the Magisterium, and the way that you're tested is the Iron Trial, and you have to pass this test to get in. And you'd think that he would really want to go to magic school because that's really interesting, but Callum has been told his entire life that if you go to the Magisterium you will die, and so he really doesn't want to go, and he tries to fail the test, but obviously if that was all the book was about it'd be very short, so he passes the test. He doesn't really know how he does that, but he does, and he goes to magic school, and there he meets lots of other mages and has to kind of figure out why it is that different people tell him different things about the Magisterium and who to trust and all of that stuff. I really liked it. I thought it was really good. I think for a first book in a series it was very good, and if you're worried about it being very similar to Harry Potter, because a lot of people keep comparing it, and that's not people who've read the book, that's just people who've heard the synopsis. If you're genuinely worried about that, I would say put it out of your mind. Like, I read it and it's not in any way like Harry Potter. It's like, the premise is similar because magic school and a main character who is a boy, that's just, a lot of books are similar in that way. But it's not Harry Potter. This and Harry Potter have similar themes, but they're not the same. and I think they're very good. They're both very, very good, but they're good in very different ways, and I really enjoyed this, so I would definitely recommend it, and my review for this book will be up soon.